Hello, and welcome back to Ciconia When They Cry. As with the last episode, this may be recorded well into the future before you see it, but if you are seeing it, it means the video upload limit thing has been lifted, and I believe we're going to be starting on chapter 9 today. So, last time, a lot of crazy things happened with Koshka, with Veer in the basement or whatever. So, and with Chloe as well. So we've got a lot to build off of for this time. I think things are, it's becoming even more apparent than it already was when they give you the tagline or whatever of like child soldiers that things are not necessarily uh very ethical. I don't know, but we will persevere. And we'll start with a quote. I won't join you, but I think we do need an uprising. Source unknown. And our clock's gonna move. I still don't know what this really means, but whether it's school or the military, young people are sometimes forced to do the unpaid work of listening to old people talk about boring stuff. Oh, it's Jaden! I'm sorry. I like Jaden. What can I say? My ass hurts so much. So do my shoulders. Why are those chairs so hard? Rather than studying, it's more like training for how to withstand economy class syndrome. And before Cellcom, you wouldn't even have been able to kill time or record it, right? That really would be hell. I guess it just means that old humanity was good at being patient. Hard to tell if humanity's advanced or regressed, huh? Ah. However, the advancement of technology was now starting to win against the boredom of listening to old people talk. Old people proudly claimed that modern kids were slacking off and had no spirit, going on and on about what it was like in their day. However, even when it looked like those young people were sincerely listening to them, they were actually chatting away happily in mental rooms. How is that not a win-win situation? But even if they could win against the boredom, apparently no technology had yet been invented that could stop the butt from hurting after sitting on a hard chair. Anyway, let's go somewhere else we can sit down. Otherwise, my butt's never gonna unflatten itself. Today, you're gonna take us to that store your friend's running. Right, Gunhild? Yes. I hope you two like them. Meow and the other Gauntlet Knights were soldiers who served in the military, but they were also students who hadn't yet reached adulthood. Though they underwent strict military training, they were also guaranteed enough time and privileges to enjoy their youths. So, while they stood at the front lines of their nation's defense, they were also able to have daily lives just like normal students. Of course, they only got these privileges because they were elites with cutting-edge tech who defended their countries. Gunhild's friends are amazing, managing to set up a store in Neo Akihabara. Isn't it pretty expensive here? Now searching real estate prices in the area, Plato. No, you don't have to search it. I can imagine how high it gets. More than it being expensive, it's hard to even find a property to buy. And besides, if you look at small buildings and back alleys, you can rent a spot for a price that's not too unreasonable. On this day, the War Cats had been taken to a study center near Neo Akihabara. It was a really boring job where they were forced to listen to very precious words of wisdom from old people with lofty titles. Afterwards, they figured that since they had come to Neo Akihabara, they might as well wander around. Then, Gunhild had told them that some friends of hers had opened a store nearby, and she offered to take them there. You really have a lot of friends, don't you? You think so? Yeah. No matter where we go or what we're talking about, you always have friends there, right? When you've got that many, how do you not mix them up? Isn't it rough getting mail from and going into virtual rooms with all sorts of friends all day long? Is it being able to easily do things like that that makes parallel processors so great? Well, when I'm talking to someone, I'll sometimes have a conversation with other friends in a mental room at the same time, but I feel a bit guilty about it. Isn't that fine as long as you don't post it to the wrong chat? Well, when someone's talking to you about something serious and you're having fun playing a shooting game with a different friend in a mental room, doesn't that feel mean? Jaden, you usually act like you're so outrageous, but some of the time you can be surprisingly commonsensical, or should I say, detail-obsessed. Shut up. I get that I'm a guy whose good looks are wasted by my lack of communication skills. I hate people who call themselves good-looking. Still, well, I don't dislike the fact that you're concerned about little things like that. I see. Thanks, Meow. Oh, brother, don't. No, that was me talking. Oh, really? I thought every kind thing you ever said came from Meow. After all, Meow's always strict whenever he talks, right? You're pissing me off! Pissing me off! There's no way I'll ever say kind things about you again, okay? Hey, don't start pouting, seriously. You really are cute, Meow. I'd appreciate it if you'd save the lovers' quarrels for when we're alone. The store was in a back alley 2 rows back from the gaudy Main Street. Though you could hear the bustle and electronic sounds from Neo Akihabara, it did feel just a bit calmer. After entering one of the buildings that rented out spaces and were thin like sliced cheese, they climbed up 4 short stories and were at the shop. Oh, hello. Welcome. Hey, Gunhu. You actually came. Long time no see. You look well. I'm so glad. Oh, you even brought your friends? Come on in, sit down. How's the store doing? Off to a good start? A whole bunch of our supporters in Japan came. Now we just need to wait for it to spread by word of mouth. That's bleep, bleep, but gladly bleep, bleep. It's too fast and slangy for me to translate, Polio! It looked very strange to see Gunhild and the female owner, who was wearing a Cyclops mask and maid clothes, chatting together excitedly. Yeah, I was like, is that her face? I didn't think they were that far in this society, but wow. I've never seen Gunhild get so fired up and talk so fast. They're siblings of the same age, apparently. They've been in touch, but they haven't actually met for 10 years, it seems. Siblings, huh? I wonder how my siblings are doing. I thought the great super genius Jaden hated having company on his lonely walk down Genius Lane. I guess you've got a point there. With my excellent grades, I kept passing up other people in my age group in classes, always so eager to reach the top. I just kept running straight forward, without ever thinking about siblings or friends, until I ended up here. It was only recently that Jaden had recognized that fault, and had started renewing his old friendships with some of his siblings. Even so, he was still estranged from many of them. I know they were, something said like that in the AOU, like a lot of, or maybe all of the children are like made from factories or something like that. Like, so I wonder if they have more siblings than we would maybe be used to in this day and age, but we'll see. He sometimes regretted that he'd been self-absorbed with the idea that he was a super genius, and that this had caused him to neglect his sibling relationships. Okay, I will say though, I remember Meow mentioned like his dad enrolling him or whatever, so I'm sure they still have like individual families and stuff, but I'm just like, I don't know, we'll see. Meow felt he'd screwed up a bit. He offhandedly told Jaden, I bet you were a loner, and it had turned out to be right. Now, you got me, so you aren't a loner anymore. Eh, yeah, you're right. Thanks, Meow. It's not like that. That was Meow just now. No, that one was definitely you, Meow. I love it when you act nice every once in a while. Let go! Stop ruffling my hair! Those two certainly are close. They're so happy together. I don't know if he always, or I guess they always have a cheeseburger burger, but good job, Kiddo Foil. Eat that burger. Foil! Your current location is the Costume Cafe Monster Party, Foil! Rating 5 stars. Safety 3 stars. Cleanliness 3 stars. It hasn't been open very long, so it doesn't have many ratings, Poyo. Make sure you take that into account, Poyo. Oh, cool. Is this a CRT TV? Probably just looks like one on the outside. Oh, it's the real thing. We got it via crowdfunding, which kept us waiting quite some time. In this era of mental displays, everyone assumed that TV monitors from the old era had been all but eliminated. However, no matter the era, you'll always find collectors who love old technology. You can really sense that everyone's watching the same thing. That's why I like old displays. I know what you mean. It's nice when it feels like you're all watching it together. Yeah, I get that. I love that stuff too. No matter how boring the show is, it can still be kind of fun. Hey, look. Just because you said that, they've started playing something boring. Should I turn it off? There's an urban legend that says they leave a mark on your record whenever you turn off a government broadcast. I never heard anything like that. If they flag you for turning off the TV during government broadcasts, I would have been sent to jail a dozen times over. In the AOU, all channels were forced to show government broadcasts at a specified time every day. In almost all cases, these were used to highlight the ways of life in the AOU was better than it had been before. In the B3W world, propaganda broadcasts like that were hated and likened to brainwashing or something out of a dystopia. However, the flood of broadcasts criticizing the current state of affairs in the B3W world had also encouraged global paranoia. Everything from the weather to health to atopic dermatitis to even troubles with luck and romance was blamed on corruption in one's own government. So, naturally, people all over the world were unsatisfied with their living conditions, and this formed a decently strong motive for immigration. At the same time, the countries accepting immigrants tended to blame them for everything bad that was going on. This led to increasing discontent towards their own governments for not taking a harder line on immigration, and eventually the rise of far-right groups. With time, these became triggers for cultural clashes, which opened the door for World War III. Perhaps in an attempt to atone for this, broadcasters in all countries and all factions of the A3W world were forced to include broadcasts that would help raise the happiness index. Happiness is like spring sunshine. If you take it for granted, it's very hard to realize how precious it is. Why not stop for a moment and reflect on the happiness in your life? Have you heard the phrase, going on a journey to find yourself? In our AOU, this phrase has long since passed into obscurity, but it's still used to this day in the other factions. It means to find what your strengths are by trial and error. Young people in the other factions don't know what their natural-born strengths are, so they're forced to spend most of their lives finding them by trying out one thing after another. People are born with all sorts of individual traits. They think of ways to best take advantage of their traits, designing the optimal lives for themselves. However, individual traits aren't always a positive thing. Sadly, some are hard to make use of in society, and some can even become a burden. Some traits that can be easily seen, like those that come with physical penalties, were given humanity's support from very early on. But it's also true that a large number of people never received any support, either because their traits were hard to recognize visually, or else because they were seen as the result of an evil mind. After all, traits that stem from the brain are still misunderstood by lots of people. If you look at it that way, we really are living in a nice era. Yeah. A genetic test is performed as soon as there's a fertilized egg, so all your strengths and weaknesses are known before birth. In the AOU, birth management and genetic testing make it possible for us to know all of a child's talents before they're born, as well as allowing us to guide them and prepare a suitable job and lifestyle for them. Positive traits are given opportunities to distinguish themselves even more, while negative traits are given the support they need. Young people in the AOU are able to live the most suitable lifestyle for themselves, without having to spend half their lives searching for themselves. When youths in the other factions go on their self-searching journeys, it takes an average of 24 years. And even this number includes people who eventually gave up on finding their true strengths, rather than discovering them. Most young people around the world are still suffering, still ignorant of their real talents. In the B3W world, that was apparently totally normal. It must have been a tough era, having to spend most of your life searching for what you're good and not good at. There were probably also a lot of people who never found out what they were good at, and who died believing they were incompetent. In that sense, we do live in a wonderful era. Then again, I do like the thought of going on a journey to find yourself. Yeah. People in the B3W world were always able to hope that they had unknown talents sleeping inside them. But now, you can't have dreams like that. As a result, all citizens of the AOU can work the jobs they're best suited for, living wonderful lives without wandering about or wasting their youths. Of course, the genes you're born with don't determine everything about your life. The AOU always gives people of all occupations opportunities to learn or change professions. To live is to work. Finding a job that makes the best use of your abilities is one of the happiest forms of living the AOU provides. We offer all youths a future where they'll have the greatest chance to shine. AOU. Well, people in the past probably would have thought it was pretty nosy, having someone else decide your whole future for you. That's just people going through a rebellious phase. You know, when you want to do the opposite of what people tell you to do. When you want to do the opposite of what people tell you to do. When I was first told to go to military school, I absolutely hated the idea. What did you want to be at the time? A cat video uploader. A video uploader? Who only does cat videos? That's right. Got a problem with that? I took a shot at it with the job experience simulator, ended up with a D grade, and cried until I gave up. Okay, I get that I totally underestimated how hard a job being a video uploader is. Yeah, that's right, guys. It's super hard. Your dreams were crushed by the simulator? You shouldn't have worried about that. They say those always give you bad grades. I mean, do you know what job aptitude grade Gunhild got for becoming a gauntlet knight? I got a C. Seriously? You went from that to where you are now? What the hell? That means simulator grades are totally worthless! I should have ignored them and became a cat video uploader! Fate isn't something you're given, it's something you forge for yourself. Instead of obediently following the rails set before me, I should have tried living a life like I pleased. Still, there's one thing I can say for sure, as your partner. No matter what you tried to do, whether you got an A or a B or a D, you were definitely fated to become a gauntlet knight, the strongest man in the sky, and my partner. I hope you know your aptitude for being my partner is only about a C.
The fact you didn't give me a D makes it clear how much you love me as a partner, Meow. Shut up! Stop clinging to me. You're creeping me out. You're treating me like a girl again, aren't you? I am not. It's normal for two guys to act like this. No way, that's not how two guys act. It was gross. You were definitely treating me like a girl. Hey, cut that out. I get that you have an inferiority complex, but don't take it out on me. If you're sensitive about the fact that you've got no muscles, just admit it and work out more. Inferiority complex? What are you talking about? When did I ever say I had an inferiority complex? Because I've got no muscles. Oh, ouch, ouch. Don't scratch me, don't pinch me. This is exactly what having an inferiority complex means. Was their relationship good or bad? Their arms were wrapped around each other as they tried to strangle each other. Of course, from the sidelines, it just looked like they were flirting. You do have a complex. You interpret everything Jaden does like that. Oh, it's Meow. You do have a complex. You interpret everything Jaden does like that because you're sensitive about the fact that you're weak, right? Hey, it's not like I... You're gonna say it's because I wouldn't like having a muscular body, right? Choosing not to exercise is your decision to make, okay? You don't like being slender, but you hate exercising, and you hate weight training. And when that makes you feel bad, you take it out on Jaden. I'm not taking it out on anyone. Ow, ow, ow! Meow and Meow started grabbing at each other with their left and right arms, pinching their face and so on. Having two personalities in one body really keeps them busy, and it's always amusing to watch. In the end, Meow won and Meow withdrew. In the first place, they had already agreed to switch places at the end of their study session. I'm sorry you had to see that, Jaden. Thanks for waiting. Sure. Still, I can't help but be surprised. Just by switching over to Meow, it's like your whole face has changed. Gunhild, congrats on making it through that study session. I love your friend's shop. Those monster masks are adorable. Thanks for coming along with me. It's alright if you two head off and have some fun now. Are you sure? We only just arrived. Don't worry about it. Thanks for coming over to play. If you don't mind, please talk about us on Kizuna, #included. Sure, we'll do that. We'll see you again. Put my meal and Meows on my card. I'll add a tip too. Thanks, but we'll split the bill. I'll use my card too. And I'll also add a big tip. I'm grateful, but don't you think this is a bit much? No, not at all. It's not like there's much we can spend money on. Thanks again, Poyo! I'll give you a stamp for visiting this shop, Poyo! Was it a good shop, Poyo? If it was, make sure to support them with a tip, Poyo! Cha-ching! Thanks for your tip, Poyo! Thanks for the meal. Gunhild, thanks for telling us about this wonderful shop. Catch you later. And thanks for adding on a tip. Okay, sorry for heading out early. Bye! Looking apologetic for leaving Gunhild behind, the two of them left the store. Those two certainly seem happy. That's quite the tip they gave us. Gunhild rested her chin on her hands over the counter, sighed deeply but quietly, and then raised her head. Her expression seemed slightly different than usual. Oh. They're high and mighty gauntlet knights, after all. Of course they have more money than they know what to do with. You think so? I never heard of you having more money than you know what to do with. Sorry, the text is going a little bit slow. Also, don't tell anyone, but in the middle of that scene, I kind of took like a couple-week break, and now I'm back, so I have no idea if this is the same voice I was giving the owner like 5 seconds ago. But anyway, you think so? I never heard of you having more money than you know what to do with, Gun. I'm kidding, just kidding. For gauntlet nights, food, clothing, shelter, and even fringe benefits all come free. Pretty amazing, huh? Seriously, no matter what they do, it's always free. So, they keep stockpiling more and more money. And hell, they could even live their lives without really using any of it. What a sweet deal those super aristocrats get. It amazes me every time I hear it. To think that in this day and age, there are people who can go through life without ever thinking about money. I'm jealous of that passionate couple. It's not like they've done anything wrong. They were just lucky enough to be born with good talent and genes, I guess. They must have done something incredibly good in their previous lives, so God told them it was okay for their next lives to be a bonus stage. I don't feel like I belong in a bonus stage, but this town really is one. That's the first thing I thought when I got here. The air's so clean. Oh yeah, there's like Amos in the air. The air here's clean because they use incredibly high quality spiridium. Once you've tasted it, you won't be able to go back to your old city. I agree. I don't want to go back. It gives me shivers to think I was living in air that's that smelly without even noticing it. Still, until you came here, you breathed it without caring at all. That's true. Now, I'm grateful. Thanks for not telling me how nice the air was here. I never told you all about anything. Probably because I didn't want anyone getting depressed. But I can finally get this off my chest. Now that I've finally got siblings in the same city as me. Both Maha and I are extremely grateful to you, Gun. If you hadn't supported us with money, we never would have been able to come here. You gave so much. And to everyone. Don't worry about it. I just wanted siblings in this city, so I had someone to complain to. Thanks. But we want to complain too. Only Maha and I studied seriously and gave it our all. When everyone else received your money, they just thought it was natural for the successful one to send some of it their way. It doesn't bother me. A city like that would corrupt anyone. Us crawling up this far was an exception among exceptions. They'll all be stuck in that city of losers until they rot and then die. They'll paralyze their minds with apps and drift through life, only vaguely conscious. Before they know it, they'll get fat on junk food, have problems with their organs, and amazingly quickly and suddenly die while still 30 to 40 years old. And even living like that felt like a little bit of happiness back when we were there. The AOU certainly is a terrifying place to live. You either need excellent genes from the time you're a fertilized egg, or enough fighting spirit to crawl out of the trash heap. If you're in the vast majority that doesn't have either, you've got to suck up to the rich, becoming their food so you can barely scrape by. And if you can't do that, you'll live life in a daze and get fatter and fatter. And you'll grumble complaints about all the mental games you're playing, until the alcohol and obesity kill you. Has this faction gone insane? Or are they all happy, and we're the only ones who are screwed up? Are these feelings something we need to never forget? Or something we should leave behind as soon as we can? I don't know yet. I want to forget about it. If it were possible, I'd want to forget about everything that happened in that city. I'd rather pretend that I lived here from the start. By the way, have you been in touch with Maha lately? I don't know if it's Maja, but I apologize if I'm saying it wrong. No, I haven't seen her recently either. And Kizuna isn't marking the messages I send as having been read. I suppose she's still giving it her all, hoping to become a true gauntlet knight like you, Gun. Well, you probably have it roughest when you're still just a trainee. I was sure it'd be you who first got in contact with her, but I guess not. Well, she did ask me a lot of questions before her exams. Still, in the end, there's nothing you can do except have faith in your own strength. Officially, there were no age restrictions for Gauntlet Night tests, but practically speaking, there were. The most valuable talent for a Gauntlet Night was parallel processing ability. The PP training, sorry guys. The PP training used to hone that ability was more effective the younger you were. So, once you reached a certain age, it apparently wouldn't grow at all. I'll bet Maha's thinking there'll be no hope left for her if she doesn't pass this time. She's got to be pushing herself hard and focusing on that alone. It would be wonderful if the next time we hear from her, it'll be so she can tell us that she passed. Yeah. People usually misunderstand Maha because she looks so cute, but she really is a lot like a boy. I'm sure she's incredibly well suited to being a soldier. At first, I was absolutely sure Maha would become a Gauntlet Knight before me. I thought the same thing. She's probably the person who dreamed most about being a Gauntlet Knight. I'm sure I wouldn't have made it to where I am now if I hadn't been influenced by her passion. So, I was pretty worried that I might have hurt Maha's pride, becoming a Gauntlet Knight before her. There was no need to. When you did it, no one was happier than Maha. If anything, she was even more excited, thinking that she'd be able to pass the next time if she could get a few tips from you. I told her a few things, but in the end, this sort of thing always comes down to your own strength. The world of Gauntlet Knights is filled with monsters. There's a ton of natural-born geniuses who never had to suffer their entire lives, but who still hate to lose. Like that happy couple from before. They are monsters. Natural-born ones. They never had to really push themselves since the time of their births, but they can still do anything. In the same way that most people never have to learn how to breathe or blink, they understand how to use the Reaper's Eye as if it were natural. And they can leap from the top of Super Tokyo Tower as if they're putting on sandals to go take a walk. Those are the kinds of people fighting over those gauntlets. If a C grade wants their dreams to come true, of course they'll have to work hard and suffer to their absolute limits. And even then, they still have to pray for a miracle. Maha was working hard and suffering to her limit too. So, now there's nothing to do but pray for a miracle. You're right. Still, Maha is so likable. Once she sneaks past that exam, she might make it big even faster than you, Gun. She looks like the kind of person who's good at getting her way, maybe that's a typo, but she's actually the type that overworks themselves. I imagine she'd still have it rough even after becoming a Gauntlet Knight, so I'm a bit worried for her. It'll be alright. Maha is much better at that sort of thing than we are. I guess so. Men love women like that. I wish I were attractive like that, particularly to middle-aged men. I don't know about that, Gunhild. But I understand the social need to in this society, maybe. I don't know. Hey, Gun? What is it? If you brought me to this city so I could listen to you complain, then you wouldn't mind listening to my complaints too, right? Spit it out. You have the right, and of course, so does Maha. Well, you know. She was wearing a monster mask, so it was impossible to see her expression. However, you could tell by the tone of her voice. You could hear her moan, as she tried to dig out a thorn that had been stuck in her heart for a long, long time. Gun, you did suffer like Maha and I did, right? How could anyone who pulled themselves up by their bootstraps not have suffered? No, she was asking this, despite being fully aware of that fact. I got a C grade too, right? a C in my Gauntlet Night aptitude score. In training, equipment, teaching materials, assistance, and support, the A students were always given priority. Unless I suffered in a way the A students never did, I wouldn't even have had a chance to study. Just now, you said you wanted to forget all about the old city, right? I feel the same way. In my case in particular, in order to crawl towards becoming a Gauntlet Knight, in order to grasp any chance I could without worrying about anything else, I was forced to frantically suffer day after day. I want to forget that part alone, to scrape it away. I want to open my skull right now and rub my brains all over the asphalt to get rid of it. I want to take all those things that only people who crawl out of the trash ever know and forget them completely. For today, I suggest we up our meds by 2 pills more than normal. I see. I'm sorry, but thanks. Knowing that I'm not the only one suffering makes me feel a little better. You should create a new self in this city too. If you want to cut yourself off from a painful past, creating a new you is a very effective way to do it. I'm so grateful to both of you. Back to Jaden. Yeah, I don't know about Maha. I don't know, given what we saw before. I'm a little worried for her. Okay. Everything sucks in this world, but when you walk with your head held high, it can be pretty fun. I don't think good and evil exist in this world. You might say it's like a mirror. If people who are feeling dark look at it, the world looks dark. And when people who always have brightness in their hearts look at it, I'm sure it makes the world brighter. The news keeps talking about dark stuff, saying there might be another war. But if that makes us turn gloomy too, the world will be wrapped in darkness. That's right. And anyway, you're cutest when you're smiling, Jaden. Seriously? If that's how you feel, I'll grin whenever you're around, Meow. When you're talking to Big Brother, you had better hold back, or else he'll start sulking again. Apparently, he feels as though I've stolen away his beloved friend, and he's jealous. Uh-huh? He really thinks that? What the heck? That Meow's so cute. Don't I always tell him that he's the only person who could be my perfect buddy? I know. If he could just accept how much you like him, and just honestly respond in kind, I think he'd be even cuter. If Meow hears you saying that, he'll be pissed. I know. If only he'd smile more. If he did, the world would be brighter and happier. Interesting contrast between those two conversations, I also must say. And now, let's see where we are now. In the highest-ranked area near the center of the city, there was always some sort of party going on in the ultra-high-class hotels. The reasons for them and the groups holding them were always different, but the main participants were never young. As usual, all the main participants in the party on this floor were middle-aged, fat men. In a waiting room, where you could faintly hear an elegant live musical performance coming from the party hall, a plump high military official was snoring on a sofa. After having his fill of high-grade wine and being doted on by secondary secretaries, he was now likely having sweet dreams. However, his chest was exposed, and several electrodes had been attached to him, including at the nape of his neck, all of which were attached to several cords. Those cords were connected to a laptop sitting on the lap of another man. Cellcom technology transformed the human brain itself into a hard drive. In other words, it turned VIPs into walking hard drives. If you wanted to steal what was inside, you had to directly access those walking hard drives. Once, hackers were able to elegantly sift through the world's secrets in front of their own machine in their own homes, but in the A3W world, hackers were once again forced to rely on the methods of classic spies. Decrypting! Decrypting! The files are being decrypted one by one, Poyo! Oh, hello, Tojiro. He's been so sneaky lately. Alright, little buddy. You can do it. The decryption software processed one vital, classified file after another. He was saying that classic phrase, which you can't help but say while watching a slowly expanding progress bar as files are being unpacked. Decrypting! Decrypting! The files are being decrypted one by one, Poyo! However, another window that looked like an EKG was flashing yellow, warning that some sort of danger was approaching. It indicated the estimated time before the snoring officer woke up. Still, this pig really is packed to the brim with cholesterol, Poyo. I'd rather calculate the sleep time of a cute girl, Poyo. No arguments here. I'd rather hack a G-cup beauty's boobs than an old man's head. Okay, girl. That might have peaked the mic. Sorry. Sorry for the wait, Poyo. The files have been successfully decrypted, Poyo. Good work, Ghetto Poyo. Please keep checking Mr. Cholesterol's remaining sleep time. Roger that, Poyo. Also, I'd prefer it if you'd wet those electrodes clean, Poyo. I'll clean them with the finest alcohol swabs money can buy. Windows opened one after another on the monitor, displaying the contents of various files. Tojiro watched this, feeling like a prophet in a fantasy world staring at a crystal ball. These files show what's going to happen next in this world. This really is the world's future. The only shame is that the world's future doesn't lie with the young, but inside the head of an ugly old man who's practically a lump of bad health. They need to lay off this guy. Come on, guys. While speaking sarcastically, Tojiro used both his mental Cellcom keyboard and the real keyboard beneath his fingertips to rapidly copy the files. As soon as he copied everything, the window marking the time remaining before the officer woke up turned red and blinked. Time was up. Poyo, Poyo, Poyo! He's waking up, Poyo! Okay, we made it somehow. Tojiro quickly tore off the electrodes attached to the man's neck and put his laptop away. When the man let out a pathetic sound like "Ugh," and finally woke, Tojiro was handing him a glass of ice water, acting as though he had been worried until a second ago. Ugh, my alcohol tolerance has gotten so low. When did it get this bad? You probably should have paced yourself a bit. How do you feel? Should I call for a car? No, there's no need. After taking a quick nap, I'm feeling right as rain. And my head's cleared up too. Let's get back to drinking, Tojiro. The officer happily put his arm over Tojiro's shoulder, and they returned to the party. When they opened the door, a thick heat and vulgar, drunken laughter poured out at them. Now that Tojiro had finished his job, there was nothing forcing him to stay at this party. It was the sort of party that an onlooker might easily have been jealous of. However, though Tojiro kept an adult smile on his face, he cursed inside his heart. I've been to lots of parties, but never to a banquet as ugly as this one. The hall's decorations were solemn, as you'd expect from a party for dignified executives. However, the sweaty heat that filled it, the vulgar laughs of the men, and the flirtatious voices of the women, turned this into a world that was the exact opposite of dignified. The men were all older, stout, high military officers. Their plump chests and arms and their overflowing double chins eloquently spoke for their unhealthy lifestyles. Okay, guys. And they weren't just high-ranking officers. They had all made use of their ranks to start side businesses that earned them far more than their normal pay. These dignified individuals made a hobby of going from crazy party to crazy party, squandering the money that they couldn't find any other use for. On the other hand, the women were all young and well proportioned. However, unlike the men, they didn't wear military uniforms or jangling medals. On the contrary, just the women were all wearing swimsuits that exposed so much skin you might call it obscene. Officially, this party was a training session for important military officers. Naturally, only members of the military were allowed to attend. So, all the women here were also members of the military. They were military secretaries, also known as secondary secretaries. Pollo! Now running a search on secondary secretaries, Pollo. Search complete! The term secondary secretary refers to female secretaries chosen by perverted old men who want to be waited upon by babes, Pollo. I found 13,400 adult videos with the tag secondary secretary, Pollo. Would you like to view them, Pollo? Ghetto. Thanks. Give me the link starting with the highest rated. Oh my gosh. Guys, I can't be. Is Ghetto Pollo a misogynist? And maybe also Tojo. I'll also download some lovely female frog humiliation ovulation action for you, Pollo. Hello. I guess it never hurts to have some fried frog with salt and green onions to go with your drink. These guys are freaks! Both of them! In short, secondary secretaries were basically mistresses that military leaders were allowed to go around with officially. Maybe they would have been better off as mistresses. Most of them had signed one-sided mistress contracts in exchange for financial support and a guaranteed standard of living. Young people always want to succeed, to grasp hold of any chance that comes their way. However, in the AOU, where people were sorted out by the government, whether you succeeded or not was already decided when you were a fertilized egg. If those who weren't chosen wanted to reach that same position of success, then, naturally, there wouldn't be any spots left. If you still wanted to grasp a rare opportunity and crawl your way up there, you couldn't afford to be picky. So, they would select young girls who matched their tastes from this pool of youths. They would offer them financial support and good treatment, or else a job as a military secretary, albeit a secondary one, which promised a more than stable income. If the girls were too young to know how the world worked, they might still be able to refuse. They still had faith in their own talent, so they certainly wouldn't sell their bodies and souls. However, once these people, who had been born as babies unloved by the government, began to realize how much determination and sacrifice it took to keep living in this gaudy city, it might have become harder to refuse. What's this world coming to? Simply put, the only point of this party was for those men, each of whom had acquired several secondary secretaries with their money and positions, to show them off to each other in an utterly immoral way. On sofas here and there, men were obscenely groping the young girls' bodies. The girls themselves drew close to the men unhesitatingly, frantically trying to flatter them. Their tragic desire to remain in this city, to never return to that smelly old city, to remain alive, was painfully obvious just watching them from here. It was a scene of the young who wanted to survive, having their feelings and bodies devoured by blobs of flesh who had no intention of contributing anything to humanity or society. Tojiro pushed down the feelings inside his heart, acting as though he was enjoying this scene while slightly drunk. High military— oh, sorry. Tojiro, stop standing around over there and join us! No, I'm enjoying myself plenty over here. Don't you worry about it. That won't do. There's no need to be shy. Come on! You're up next! They were inviting Tojiro to join a group of officers who had told their secondary secretaries to go topless, making an immoral game of blindfolding themselves and seeing if they could tell whose breasts were whose by touching. His job for the night was over, but the brain hard drives of this immoral club's members were still like a mountain of treasure. Jeez. With my monthly pay, if I get used to this sort of game, I'll be screwed. Aren't you raking in enough that it's hard to tell which is your real job? Tojiro shrugged and was handed a necktie, then told to use it as a blindfold. Nearby, the women they owned were ordered to adjust their swimsuits to expose their breasts. Some smiled seductively and obeyed without hesitation. Some froze for an instant, then pretended to flirt and obeyed. The girls began to obey one after another, but the very last one stubbornly refused. Tojiro noticed that she was biting her lower lip and hanging her head. When he saw from her expression that she wouldn't be able to hold in her feelings any longer, Tojiro recognized the twisted rule that had been set for her. Hey, what's wrong? Everyone else is stripping. Why are you the only one who isn't? I wasn't told that it would be like this. When the men heard her force those words out, they burst out laughing, as if that was exactly what they had wanted to hear. Sometimes, as a twisted prank, these twisted VIPs would intentionally not tell girls they recruited as secondary secretaries about the true nature of this immoral job. They would offer her a reasonably high salary, and just as she had gotten used to a high-quality lifestyle, they would suddenly bring her to a place like this, so they could enjoy her innocent reaction. This girl had probably truly believed that she'd been selected as a secretary because they had acknowledged her hard work and talent. However, this was the reality. The man who had acknowledged her, whom she had even adored like a father, had only ever been vulgarly interested in her body. This is rough, guys. The men intentionally spoke in a way that would make her feel cornered, forcing her to participate. The girls who had already sold their hearts followed suit and cheered her on. No one's forcing you if you don't want to. You'll just have to pack your bags and leave before the night is out. I'll tell everyone you caused some sort of problem connected to your job. You don't have any other jobs lined up, do you? No, you couldn't even rent a home if you wanted to. I can see to it that you never live in a city with clean air again, much less Tokyo. I know where you came from. Do you really want to go back to that piss-stained city? Well, do you? They truly were twisted. Those sick lumps of flesh who just wanted to see her humiliated. The girl, who was finally starting to break down in tears, gave in to their demands. The lumps welcomed her exposed breasts with cheers and applause, but obviously that didn't make her feel any better. You sick pigs. Yes, this world really is worthy of destruction. I don't know, I'm like, bro, why did you ask Kiroboya for the links then? But, I don't know. He's still not doing anything to stop it, clearly. I don't know. I feel like maybe there is something that if he was brave enough, he could do in the moment to intervene with this, but he's just like, no, let's destroy the world. I'm just like, yeah, this is rough. The lump who had now truly become her owner put his arm around her shoulder, celebrating as if she had just gone through an initiation ceremony. Yeah, that's the ticket. That's what it means to become an adult. While you're under my care, you'll never want for anything. Understand, Maha? Oh my gosh. No. This stinks. Aww. Is this Kiropoyo? It doesn't really sound like something Kiropoyo would say. Just as flower petals are fated to fall, so too must humanity. Humanity has already reached civilization's end. Now is the time for humanity's petals to scatter. All is in the name of guiding humanity down the right path. And that's the end of the chapter. Yeah, this one was a sad one. Oh. Oh, yeah, okay. So I guess that was the quote for the last one, and now we're okay. So this is the next one. So we'll stop here. But yeah, if this ever sees the light of day, thank you for watching. I will do my best again if these ever get uploaded to make sure for like really like uncomfortable scenes like that to put a warning in the description for this and future ones if there's anything like, um clearly like uncomfortable and potentially triggering for anyone. So if that is something that would help you, please keep an eye out. Pardon me. But yes, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time with chapter 10. Thank you.